Welcome back to the New Change in the Map series. Last episode I brought up a new tiny island dispute between the African nations of Equatorial Guinea and Gabon, but lamented that this dispute wouldn't be resolved anytime soon. As a matter of fact, a lot of other items mentioned in previous episodes aren't going to be resolved anytime soon either, so I figured that there would be a long time before another episode. However, back in July of 2021, there were talks about another geopolitical dispute, this time between China and the tiny Himalayan nation of Bhutan. While the dispute made headlines in July of 2021 and seems to be a new dispute, it's not really. And it's a part of an ever-growing pile of Himalayan border disputes that have actually been around for decades. In this episode, we're going to look at the current dispute as well as the brief history behind it, which will help explain why it's both a new and an old dispute at the same time. But first, here's a word from this video's sponsor, Ridge Wallets. If you're tired of the same old cheap leather wallets that fall apart or get ruined with a splash of water, Ridge has a flat metal design that is the perfect replacement. With its simple 2 metal plates and bands, you can fit all of your cards in between, and you now have a secure and more sleek wallet that won't fall apart anytime soon. You can also get it in multiple colors and many designs, and they now have a new design with a fancy strap on the back to better secure your loose cash. I still love and use my Ridge wallet, and you can get one too if you click the link below and at checkout use the code EMPEROR to get 10% off of your order. Thanks again to Ridge Wallet for sponsoring this video. So, the historical disputes China has had along the Himalayan mountains, whether with India, Pakistan, Nepal, or Bhutan, have been going on for decades. The reasoning is actually fairly simple. It's the nature of the Himalayas themselves. When marking borders, if you include a mountain that you can have the border either go through the middle or around the mountain, that still means you have to actually find out what the limits of the mountain are. The Himalayas, meanwhile, are the highest mountain range in the world, and traveling through them to map out the exact extent of the mountains can be treacherous and difficult. Not to mention, even if you pull it off, it's really easy to make mistakes. The very nature of borders before the modern era were a lot more fluid and generalized. You might say that, the government's control ends at a river, cuts across a grassland, and then goes halfway through a mountain range, and for everyday purposes in older times, that worked fine. However, the more modern style of geopolitics, which stemmed from the pressures of Western-style imperialism, forced a lot of areas to adopt more rigid official borders. So when a country goes back and tried to find historical justifications for their border, they either have vague guidelines, or sometimes you have mountain borders that they never had to survey the exact slope of before. As a result, you have overlapping claims. Plus, a lot of these borders might have been surveyed in the 19th century. But then, of course, map-making tools improve, which means they'll have reasons to update the border to fix mistakes, right? In the case of the border with Bhutan, China had been disputing the border with several parts of Bhutan for over a century, all the way back towards the end of the Qing dynasty. While Tibet earned independence at the fall of the Qing dynasty, the Republic of China continued claiming parts of Bhutan along with Tibet itself. And once Communist China took control of Tibet, they continued those claims. In the second half of the 20th century, China started resurveying these borders with the Himalayan nations to make a more accurate border. However, whenever you update these borders, that means the claims don't necessarily go away. It's just, the shape of those claims changes, and that's really it. And sometimes, if you conveniently correct a mistake, it wouldn't be surprising if a nation decided to take advantage of that to say, aha, this was the claim that we meant this entire time, for strategic reasons. That being said, though, there's a difference in levels of claims a country may choose to make. It's one thing to make propaganda that it should be yours. It's another to make official diplomatic claims or to take it by force. China at different times has treated these claims differently, all while simultaneously be on and off with having border talks with Bhutan. This new claim is really more of an old claim that China is now basically choosing to focus on, namely because of its growth in strategic value. China has also lately been sort of forcing its way into some of the other claims with Bhutan by building small settlements or building projects through the areas without asking Bhutan for permission. The extent China goes with this claim, or whether it will more fully force its hand later, that's up in the air. But if it does happen, it'll be in a future episode. Thanks for watching.